So I want to welcome you all to this masterclass. Just real quick context, it's about storytelling, sharing your story, and not waiting to the end of your journey to tell your story. And so quick Debbie Downer. Today was actually going to be the my purpose mate day, which I was going to invite Olda, my wife, the best part of me, to share her story, her journey from pain into purpose. However, you will see why today as I share our story, why she will not be with us today. And hopefully, this is going to be an eventful day for you all. It was an eventful day for me as well. So stay the course. I have a surprise for everyone. If you don't like surprises, I don't like them either. But welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. So, Nadia, welcome. Kelly, welcome again. You all know my name is Denard. I'm one of the facilitators, and I will be the facilitator for today's masterclass. And as we embark on this storytelling series, I'll recap some of our conversations previously. If you haven't been here, this month actually has ended. But the month of October, I was inviting some of my colleagues that actually used their misery and made it purposeful to a ministry or actually a business, a nonprofit. And they talked about whether it was a struggle with grief, whether it was a struggle with most of them, actually, their underlining theme through it was faith and grief, to be honest. So as we dive into the abstracts of pain and purpose, I want you all to know that we're really diving into the lived experience of people, real stories that they carry. So today was going to be the I want to say the climax of the storytelling, but I will ask Olda if she seems like it will be next week. So stay the course. You will know that if you like anything about me, you'll love everything about her, right? She's the special treat. So I want you all to know that she's going to shed light into how basically God transformed her pain into purpose. But remember, this is a collective experience, you all. So I'll say this, and then we'll jump right into the formality. After I share my story, and I share it in the form of something that I did at the end of my journey in Southwest Michigan. It's called Pachacha. Some people say Pechakucha, which is a simple presentation format. If we had this visually, I would actually share it in the form of 20 slides in 20 seconds. I think it's like a total of 6 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that. But it just is, it's derived from a Japanese term of like chit chat. And you get to tell your story in like very creative ways, right? And so I'm going to tell a little bit about my story. You won't have the pictures, but I'm going to use sensory perception, body language, common phrases to kind of invoke that journey that I was on. And so I'll share that with you all. And I'll share it with you to get us to the point that we have today, to the surprise. So we're family, so you'll know a little bit about it. Emily, welcome. But before we get into it and before we move forward, let me go into the formalities again. And feel free to place where you're currently logging in the chat, so that way I can know that the chat is working. And we'll also use the chat to kind of lay the foundation for our this or that game. So just log wherever you're logging in. If you're listening to this on another day, another time, just know the time that you're listening to it, it's the time meant for you, right? So Circles is the platform meant for anyone that is actually battling the world epidemic of loneliness, right? It's connecting people to smaller groups of people that's dealing with some of the same life challenges. And you all know that today it's well over 160K people. We're on the Circles app. There's on-demand 24/7 small audio rooms led by individuals that are here to I call it the biggest interdisciplinary team. I believe that we have individuals that are dietitians. We have individuals that are holistic medicine practitioners. We have relationality coaches. We have mindful coaches. So basically, this is your value meal. Pick what you desire. And these masterclass are just to whet the palate. It's not to tell you what you can gain, but it's more central based, content based focus, so you can know what you can receive from some of our facilitators and from some of our community partners. So I want to again welcome you all, but we're going to jump right into it. Let's do the this or that game. And the this or that game for those, Emily, it looks like this may be your first time, so I'm going to say welcome home. In my groups that I lead on Circles and their audio rooms, they're typically around grief, narcissism, loss, any of the transitions of life, whether it's assertiveness and relationships. We do these games to kind of lay the foundation of our conversation. So I'll serve up the questions with a twist of the journey from pain to purpose, right? And we're gonna actually ask these questions, and you'll just respond in the chat. I I see Rachel. I know you're from Boston and Alaska. Wait, man, why did I forget that? Okay, okay, I'm getting distracted. But that's thank you for sharing that. So you all can see we're in different parts. So this icebreaker is called this or that. You choose your preference, and the whole goal is this is what I would call a pool of self-discovery, right? It's cool to get to know other people, but think about your preference, right? And I've said in a lot of and welcome, Charmed. I see you here as well. I told a lot of people, and I told my wife this today actually. She was like, "I have this issue." No, this is what you're learning is more about your preferences. When you're rediscovering yourself, when you're learning more about others and even yourself, you're actually learning your preferences. Yes, you might have things that are pet peeves, they're proclivities, but we have preferences and we need to honor those things too. So let's get to know each other. Let's also reintroduce you to you a little bit. And I'll start with a simple question. Simple question. And again, it's about, let me phrase it. Let me phrase it this way. So if I were to give you the preferences, it's pen or pencil, pen or pencil, pen or pencil, just put it in the chat. But before you write, think about this as when you're writing your life story. Do you like the idea that it's permanent with pen or changeable with pencil? And number two, pencil. You have the eraser too. All right. So pen or pencil. Just write it in the chat. Okay, pencil, pencil. Okay, all right. And Rachel, as people are writing, I would, and if you're able to, I know you might have to chime in and out. Are you able to share why pencil for you before we jump into? And I'll do one more of these before we go into the pachacha. Uh-oh, she may not be able to share her why. Let's see. I'll read in the chat. Pen is KD, Kelly, pen. Emily's writing real quick. KD, do you want to share why you chose pen? Let's see.
I kind of like that idea of something that making up my mind, writing something, and it's something I can't erase. So
Mm,
it's a non-erasable pen. It's
yeah,
once I put it down, I like the fact that it's done.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I love that. You got a theme in your life. I remember we posed a question. I think it was the sunrise or sunset, and like I think it was like preferring new beginnings or something. But you talked
Hmm.
about laying things to bed. So I hope you're picking up on your language here. This is essential because this room is about purpose. I hope you notice that you're someone that wants to etch your legacy and leave an indelible impression upon people. And I'm
Mm.
getting off tangent, but just know that I keep hearing that language from you. That's important. You've probably already made your
Okay.
mark and you haven't noticed it, but I want you to know that that's one of the reasons why you love so deeply. Okay.
Mm.
Um, yeah. This is good. I'm good on tangent, but this is good. You all, I know KD, she shared a lot, and this is why these questions are cool. I get to learn a little bit about you all. This is the gift we get. And we'll dive into one more. We'll dive into one more. I want to think about it this way because now let's think about kind of what KD talked about and this aspect of sharing the permanence of your story. Um, and what I'm about to do actually, let's think about it this way. Would you rather tell your story to a live audience, which is what I'm about to do, or write it in a book? So this is for anyone, and you don't have to share this in the chat. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's get to know each other a little bit. So you can, if you want to, put live or book in the chat. If you're listening, I want you to answer the question for yourself. Which one would you rather? Is tell your story to a live audience or write it in a book? Write it in a book. Welcome, Carol. Welcome, Janice, my Apple Apostle. For today, I'm actually going to be your guest and also your presenter. I'm sharing my story in the form of a pachacha, which is a pechacucha. In French we talk about praise, like a storytelling aspect, but very creative. And it was devised, it was conceived as a way for designers and architects to basically present their work in a more concise and efficient way. To be honest, But this has become a more creative field, and so people share it. And I got a chance to do it in St. Joseph, Michigan, and it stayed with me. So I'm going to revisit this because Rachel asked me a question: how am I feeling? And you will get the answer as I share it today. So our first thing that we did in our icebreaker was talk about pen or pencil. I forgot what my choices were. I think the gist were from KD. It was about permanence or um, changing. Yeah. So, and the pencil presents like changing errors and mistakes. I'm changing it up real quick while I'm doing this because I don't remember exactly how I said to you all. And the pen represents permanence, right? And when it comes down to writing your story, your life story, and KD shared that she would choose just this aspect, like almost as if it's concretely done once I've once I've actually written it in the pen. So the next thing we talked about, which is what I'm doing right now, would you rather tell your story to a live audience or write it in a book? And for those, if this is your first time in this room, the purpose of this room came out of Christine, was one of the members in my faith-based room. And she basically said, Denard, people are going through pain, but they're looking for more. Like there's this desire for hope. There's this desire to tell their story. They need a safe space, a well-being space. And she was like, hey, I want this to be done, but I'm not sure I'm in the space to do it. So after prayer and after persistency, we created this masterclass so that people can tell their story. So that's actually where we're going to land and end, is hopefully as you join, you feel more comfortable to tell your story. So that's why I'm broaching a lot of you telling your story by your preferences. And eventually, I would have learned a lot about you. So when I do a semi-structured interview, you can tell your story. And part of telling your story is actually you actively healing, right? The more you bottle up, the less you can actually release. So let me see the chat real quick. Um, write in a book. Everybody is a book. Oh, Janice, Janice, I know you a live audience. Janice is the rebel. Charm, live audience. Carol, live audience. Carol, I think I've seen you before. I'm interested, Carol. Why would you choose live audience? Then I'm going to go to Meg real quick, and we'll then go into the Pachacha. Carol, are you able to unmute?
Sorry, hi. What did you
Hey,
say? You
no,
want
my
me
question is,
to
yeah, say, so give us your why. You chose live audience.
um that's a really good question. I think just the interaction of I don't know. To me it's just more interactive. Does that make sense? That's
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I listen, it makes total sense. Kara, I'm an extrovert. I'm also a connector, right? I believe only the heart can reach the heart. So when I think about the palpitations of the heart, it's to me, it's like it's life. It's life-giving. So I love live things, but it does come subtly with the reality of the fact that people assume, because I love that, like I don't have the common human experience of fright or stage fright or this aspect of just the knots in the stomach. But all of that is encompassed in the reality that I've learned recently, Carol, that just reminds us that we're human, right?
right.
And so when you said, does it make sense? It makes more sense to me, simply because that's where my leaning is towards that too. So I want you to think about this preference as you all have chosen. I'm going to read, and Carol, thank you for allowing me to nudge you. What about audiobook? Kelly says that would, if that's how you choose your life story. But I will tell you something I've learned recently, because I'm an audiobook person right now because my life is on the go, not necessarily because I like it. It's just more convenient. Kelly, I would say it's interesting. What I found is I would read an audiobook, but Kelly, when you hear the author read their story, I don't know, but it comes to life in a whole different way, right? You hear the tone in their voice as they're describing some intimate moments that probably, if only if you were on the fly on the wall, you would actually understand. And even though you read it, it allows you to kind of seep more into the personality of the author. You understand the points and the pain points more. And so that's why I believe sharing our story is important. And I think it's a pivotal part to overcoming trauma, right? So Kelly, I think if that's your choice, audiobook, go for it. But I would also encourage you to think about it in the sense, how do you best tell it in your voice, right? In your voice, because that's what the world is thirsting for. They need to hear from Kelly. Um, and Meg says, I would not be me if I did not have my lived experiences, but I would write it in a book, even though I have been scared of this for a long time. I think it would be more of a fictional book based on my life. Hey, Meg, sometimes that has to be the case. Let's be honest, even fictional things, whether you call it escapism or anything, it's still based on some level of truth, right? And so, Meg, you're a wonderful person. I've heard you. Welcome, Ron. And I think you do have, not only do you have a gift of the beauty where we see collateral pain meet beauty and things of that nature, but the way you tell your story, it allows to create space for other people to heal. So I would actually ask you to consider this even in a more intentional way, right? And think about it in the sense of maybe Denard is not the first person to tell you that this is endeavor that you should have done a long time ago, right? But I'm also going to tell you that let's revisit it, let's reopen it in this space, and know that today is even the opportunity to start writing it, right? So if something comes to your mind as I'm sharing this Fetch a Kucha, I would tell you, please share. And I see your hand, Meg. What would you like to share?
Thank you, and thank you for holding this space. I think I'm just at a really interesting point in my journey right now. Yesterday was the anniversary of several loved ones, both birthdays and death days, and I know Halloween. It means different things in different cultures. For me, it's like a way of honoring loved ones that have passed on. And with all of this and my birthday being around this time of year, I'm really, really recognizing the grief that I carry that's not just with lived experiences in this lifetime, but maybe things that people before me have gone through. The more I learn about my heritage, with the Irish diaspora, a lot of what was passed on, even the language, everything was oral traditions. And I know that anyone in this room could maybe relate to that with their own story of origin, and how things have shifted over the last few centuries for several different groups of people. And we're experiencing that in real time today. And so the more that I learn about things that people around me are experiencing in their daily lives as it relates to trauma, things like schizophrenia or psychosis, things that I feel really helpless in offering support, and also recognizing where I need my own support. This concept of story is just really powerful, and it's reminding me of just different ways that stories can help us. Not just my own story, but relearning stories, maybe words that aren't in English, words that have different meaning, deeper meaning on a spiritual level, depending on their culture of origin. And so I guess this is all just to say, I do think it's powerful to share, but like my story, like my personal story, but I understand that a big part of my journey is it's also returning to my child self, and my child self was one that was deeply enthralled in imagination, deeply enthralled in the idea that plants, animals, the world around us all has a life to it, and that comes from a very deep place that wasn't shared with me with my immediate family. And I just know that there's a lot I'm unpacking, and we don't have a whole lot of time to get into it in this space, but I just think it's important that people know that concepts and processes of healing, such as decolonization, and it looks different for everybody, and everybody's at a different journey with some of this stuff, but just because your story of origin is different than those around you, it doesn't mean that your trauma is any less, in the sense that we've all been subjected to a system and we're all grieving collectively. And I'm just finding my own ways to transmute that, because I do care, and there is like a painness with self-awareness, and there's a painness, but I just hold on to hope. And I think by knowing that I can change, and being told by those around me that I can change, I start to see the transformation within. It's not going to fix things overnight. In fact, this is going to be a lifelong journey, but I just hope that by focusing on myself, it's going to be better for those around me long term. Because I do feel that sense of helplessness and that lack of control sometimes.
Meg, I have valued your statements in ways that I didn't know that I had capacity to even dive deeper into. So I'm going to say this to you. One, real quick. Thank you for sharing, but also recognizing that your grief and learning from your heritage of the Irish diaspora, it's important knowledge. But it's also important to acknowledge our pain and to understand our history in order to heal and move forward. You all know I'm very big on this. There's a difference between move forward and move on, right? And I also agree. I totally agree. I'm of Haitian descent, you all. I'm from a communal society. And long story short, I'm also a therapist and counselor. So part of my approach actually with that is to recognize that I don't come from a monolithic people, right? And that powerful tool of decolonization that you talked about when we share our stories, and you see this, you all, like there's difference is beautiful, right? It's when you can actually recognize it as challenging the dominant narrative. I'm also an evaluator. I've created, and you can look this up. I've also created with other evaluators a framework of equity, and part of that is actually understanding that we all have a structural and historical lived different experience, but also differential outcomes, right? However, we have to remain ever vigilant to create space for others to tell their story, but also to see themselves and to feel heard, right? So returning to your childhood, actually, I'm going to use this real quick to give you an example. Megan, you probably already did a pachacha, but I'm thinking about your story, and I wasn't even planning on going this way, but I'm going to use this real quick because I've over time become more comfortable doing this, and because I've seen people do more creative ways of it. But the fact of your story of origin, you said something. What did you say? The fact that how did you say that? This, I think you said the story of your origin is different doesn't mean that your story is any less or like your trauma is less valid. That right there is a unique perspective, you all, and it's a valuable asset. So, like when I hear you talked about the child returning to your inner child, and I'll do this as I do mine as well. But the way I introduce and what we did with storytelling, you all remember we talk about the opening image and the final image actually being in stark contrast, but showing the ends come to a completion because they meet together. I think about your first, you all follow me. I'm just thinking about this real quick. I did not plan this, but Meg, you're really helping me with this. So I want to show how we can do this when we talk about discovering, challenging our understanding, but also the renewal of purpose, right? And Meg just did that as she talked. And so I want to use this. So like if I were to create a slide, Meg, I'm gonna use a photo of Meg as a child, but like full of wonder. That's essentially what I would do. That would be my first picture that I would use. Actually, that's how I used it on my pachacha. My first slide is literally me smiling, but behind the smile, we don't know that Denard is actually grieving, not recognizing that he feels like a black sheep, right? And so in there we actually get introduced to Meg. Meg said in what she just shared with us, this is the narrative. Meg is rediscovering the world through the eyes of her childhood self. right? And think about it, she's unearthing. I would actually have a visual of her unearthing the roots of her heritage. And I want you to see how she says these untold stories are shaping her, right? But let's go to I would swiftly go to the next slide because remember we only have like 6 minutes and 40 seconds. But we go to the next slide and it's on a timer and it's just going by itself. So we'll go to like this recognizing grief, right? I honestly I think about the word deciduous, right? I think about a because I want to show the contrast of this full of wonder, and then I would give a visual of a life not a lifeless, because I don't think trees are ever lifeless. How would I say this? Oh, Mike would kill me if he heard me say this. So no, I don't think there's a lifeless tree. So just use the visual of a leafless tree. Let's think about it that way. And here, Meg would be basically saying, my journey begins with grief, a bare tree in winter, right? Feeling the absence of the leaves, not yet understanding the why or the who. But then we slip right into what she said, because remember how Meg described this aspect of Halloween. Everybody has different meanings behind it, but in it, I would talk about the ancestral echoes that she talks about, right? And I would have a visual of, I automatically, Meg, my mind is like really blowing up as you were talking. The sensory perceptions are just blowing up because I think about the Irish diaspora and thinking about all you all had to go through. And by the way, one of my favorite theologians, Pedro Gautama, has done a lot in Northern Ireland. And so that's how I know a little bit about the history. But think about the visual of waves crashing against a, a coral reef or cliffs, right? And that would symbolize the aspect of her delving into her Irish roots and feeling the echoes of her ancestors. So I really want you all to see how we can share these stories in creative ways without revisiting all the nuts and crannies of our trauma, right? But we can actually revisit it in a painful but yet beautiful way to help other people uncover themselves as we're sharing. So that's all where my mind went. Meg, I want to come back to you real quick. How does that land with you? Have you done a pachacha before?
I have not. I I have a mentor who's in a different state, and so I think that's kind of what is going on with me is I was training in a spiritual practice, but let's be real, westernized structures, they just take over, like school and chores and it's there's a grief in like trying to carve out space for ritual, and
Got it.
it's really exhausting when you don't have that community. And I'm very lucky and fortunate where I live, where I physically find myself. I'm in a very healing environment, physically, but there's a lot that I'm recognizing, where I'm at. And I just turned 29. So there's been a lot of big changes over the last few months, especially. And one thing my mentor says is like, we have these cauldrons. I know some cultures have they talk about the chakras, but we talk about these cauldrons, and my cauldrons have been turning, and I've been releasing a lot of, excuse me, negative connections, whether that's to physical objects, right? Because if everything in my reality, in my belief system, if everything has an energy to it, I'm having to choose where to direct that energy. And I'm also very much feeling nurtured by and this is another concept. So one of the stories, like if we're talking about storytelling, it's when there's chaos in the living's world, there's peace in the world of the spirits. And so when that shifts, there's a balance, and we alternate months basically. So I'm trying to embrace, if there's chaos going on, that my loved ones, the spirits, they are at peace, And then when it's my turn for peace, they're doing that heavy lifting behind the veil, so to speak, for me and for people around me. So I think just in this conversation specifically, it's giving me a little bit more self-compassion, knowing that I'm not alone and that I'm still cultivating that community and I'm still finding ways to show up for myself. That includes maybe taking a break from my academic career in the next, this coming next 6 to 9 months. There's a lot where I'm kind of in this abyss that includes a lot of residual stuff. And I love how, Rachel's here and how we talk about sometimes when things are stored in the body. So a lot of my attention at this time is being redirected to my physical body, because I do see the connection between my spiritual self and the physical body. And even as I'm talking, I'm starting to get a chest cold. So I know that these are the signs to slow down. The world around me is starting to hibernate and starting to slow down. And so I should be also considering how to carve that out into my life. Maybe now is not the time to take on new projects or, invest in something, invest my time into things that require like a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients that maybe just aren't available to me right now. And when
That
I'm
makes sense.
pushing for that, it's going to show up as ailment, as inflammation, as, my sense of anxiety coming up and things like that. And so I hope that does that kind of answer your question. I
Yeah.
realize I just kind of
Yeah.
went on a ramble there.
No, listen, you just modeled why this space was created. Okay. I think it's important. There's a couple of things that I would say to you. And Rachel, I do see what you shared in the chat. So I'll be very cautious and sensitive to that as well. And I did also see Ron. I would say, and I'll actually share my story. I don't think pain can be a purpose. I think we can find purpose in pain, but I don't think when I say pain is a purpose, I don't want to go off on a tangent. Let me say this. Let me say this. We can find purpose in pain, but pain is not a purpose. I'll say that. And I'll stop there. But I will prove that on our journey as we go through it. Right. You can disagree, but that's what I've come to understand. Because there's a collective sharing that we're talking about too. Because I also, my worldview, I believe in restoration, healing, preventative aspects. But going to healing and talking about purpose, Meg, part of what you do connect to very well, and it's a beautiful example, is and everything that you said when I heard the capacity, hibernation. Your language is nature is a source of life and resilience for you, right? And so I would also say, however you do it, right? However you express, and that's why I prefer the word lamenting. And when we talk about grieving sometimes, because grieving to me is more of an internal experience at times, but the expression of it in lamenting can be derived, especially when you look at it from the biblical sense, in a multitude ways. It can be done in groups, it can be done individually, but it's the expression of the grief, right? And so what I'm saying is that your experience with nature can share a lot with you about not just what the capacity you have, but how you thrive, where your challenges exist. And in that hibernation, in that moment of quietness and solitude, I believe that's the beautiful aspect of you connecting to your child self, but also with the plants in the world around you. So this is a beautiful example of telling your story and being able to share more and learn more about yourself. Nadia, I see your hand. Please share. And Meg, thank you for allowing me to nudge you a little bit there.
Hi, Denard.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm gonna share it in the story. I told Rachel I promise I'm gonna share it. I shared in my Petra Kucha. So you all have to. I said Petra Kucha. I said it in the way that That was taught earlier, a little pachacha. But if you give me 6 minutes and 40 seconds, I will share how I'm feeling. But I want to hear from you first.
Of course, yeah, I love peche kuches. I remember them. They're fun.
Okay,
Uh,
all right.
yeah, I
I want
love
to
them.
hear yours one day.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. Okay, so um, I definitely resonate with. Was it Meg talking? I'm not wearing my glasses.
You got it. You got it.
Um, I think in the Western culture, like I haven't had a lot of friends who had an interest in their cultural background and stuff like that, and I respect them for that. But for me, I felt like I had a need to look into my parents' culture and just take summaries of what I need. It was, to me, it was like a buffet of like too much stuff, and I'm like, well, this is what I need for me, and that didn't work for my parents, and it ended in a big, like big conundrum. And I stopped explaining to them that, like, yes, we share a culture, but I just, I kind of like took what I need for my personal journey. I know my brothers took the route of like just delving into the books of history, into like sort of Sudan and Egypt, and the history. And I'm sure it's interesting and fun for people who are really into like history. But for me, like nobody validated for me in the family that I just took what works for me. I don't want to read intense books. I don't want to, that's not the route for me. For me, it's like, okay, I like this from the culture. I like this, and I agree with you. Um, a lot of cultures, including mine, Denard, pain is their message. Pain is in their music. Pain is part of
Mm,
their folklore and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not interested. Like, I don't want to be sad. I don't want that. Even if people found a way to be comforted through this sad music, I don't want to. I don't think I was born like that. Like, I think, I think that's why I was just in the wrong environment, even though these are my biological parents. I'm like, I'm just wired differently. Yeah, I was born into your family biologically, but I definitely feel like as a baby, like I came into this world with some things, and one of those things was happiness, and it was like the piece of the puzzle that was missing in my parents' house. I'm like, I just resonate with happy music. Like my life could be a musical. So when I'm in like my parents' kind of melancholic, cathartic, whatever literature that they have, I don't thrive. If I was a flower, I would die. And I did. I twice living with my parents, Denard, I said to them, I think I'm the end of my life.
mm,
And my mother cried, and she's like, okay, Nadia's not joking. I'm like, I'm not kidding. I think this is it. I think my life is ending. And then I realized if I stayed there, yes, my life is over. I have no story. I have no narrative of my future in that kind of environment. um so now that I am living alone, like I'm I'm humanly scared because I'm physically alone, but my heart is happy. My heart is very happy, and I'm like, that's it. That's it. Like maybe the parents are part of the puzzle, but they're far, far, far away from my whatever it's called, like that puzzle piece. Like maybe they're somewhere in the story, but they're just not directly like a piece that like belongs to me. Like it's not the immediate circle around me. And that circle around me, like listening to Rachel, it's spiritual. I think it's a spiritual connection. And I firmly believe that there are souls that met that met in some life before this life, and they don't understand why they connect. I don't understand why I go on a bus sometimes, a public bus, and there's just that one person or two people that I'm like, I just feel like I want to sit next to them.
You
And we
connect
just
with,
sit.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, it just happens not to be my parents. And unfortunately, like their culture, it's all, it's definitely like, uh, honor your parents, you sacrifice
Hmm.
your entire life. They still have that. Like you're a sacrifice to that. And I'm like, I don't connect with that. Like I get it. I definitely like if I loved my parents and they were immediate like puzzle pieces, yes, I would definitely sacrifice my life for them. But I'm like, I think I was just a sperm and an egg that was misplaced in them. I think they
Yeah.
stole. I think they stole me. I think they were. I think there's something unethical that they did in their lives, and they don't rightfully own me. That's my
Mm,
conclusion. And not all therapists are open to hear this. They'll be like, "That sounds rebellious." Okay, that's your opinion. But to me, I read enough biology to like feel like that's it. Like some sperms and eggs are in people's bodies and they stole it. Somehow they ate food that's not theirs. They lived in places that's not theirs. They did this, they did that. And from my observation, these are not my real soul spirit parents.
yeah. Yeah. Nadia, you're okay. First off, let me see how I want to say this. This is beautiful, you all. I know I feel like I know you all, but then I feel like I don't know you all because every time I hear you all share, there's so much more. And let me make sure I quit. I'm gonna do a quick pause so I can gather my thoughts. Um, Charm, you said you're having this happens to me. Try hopping off. Okay. Um, just want to make sure that everyone can hear. If I need to at any point in time, let me say this to you all because this is your space, and I want the least amount of distractions. If my audio is coming in and out because it does that at times, and let me make sure it's not connected to anything else. Please let me know. I will do whatever it is to make sure that you all can. I want to be a moment of growth. Let me just put it that way. But Charm, if you are able, I think Trauma already dropped off. Okay. Anybody? No, Trauma's here. Trauma, if you keep running into that issue, do just what like Rachel said, and I know you know this. Just try to drop off and come back on. And if anyone hasn't updated their app, we recently released an update. So do update your app because I know some of these troubleshooting happened with the apps as well. Tom, can you unmute? Yeah, and try to say something real quick so I can troubleshoot to see how you sound on my end. Are you able to unmute? No. Give it 7 seconds because I normally see it take that long for the unmute button to work on this end. And let me make sure I'm not missing anyone in the chat. Um, Nadia, 100%. This is not okay. I'm turning to my attention to the chat for those that are listening, driving, and can't actually see the chat. Let me just read it for you real quick as we troubleshoot some of the issues. And I'll pause like 7 minutes in because I want to close out with my Chacha and share with you all how I'm feeling. Nadia, 100%. This is not my first life. I will be here until I finish my soul contract. Got to learn this lesson because I don't want to come back and do it again. And so, Nadia, Rachel is agreeing with you. Kelly says, interesting theory. Terrible parents do not deserve the beautiful blessing of children. That's my way of looking at it. Okay, okay. Um, this happened in many rooms. Okay. And if you all can, anytime you have issues too, let us know. Don't shy out. Don't be shy about that at all. We're trying to fix as much as we can because ultimately we want this to be a safe space and we want to the least amount of distractors. So just feel free. I know the product managers and the engineers, so they've told us if you run into any issues, just click the troubleshoot, let them know. They're working on it as we speak, and they're actively working on it. That's why there's always an update every Sunday, at least most Sundays. So we're gonna shift real quick because Nadia, you okay. The pictures I have of Nadia and Meg is like always the baby, and I don't know if this is because of me, and that's the way I'm starting my pachacha. But Nadia, I wanna kind of use yours as well because you have this transformative journey on your own. And it aligns with, I think, inner joy. That's what those two words kept coming out to me as you were talking, because it is a difficult conversation to have when you experience what I would say a sense of isolation, right? But I think one thing I love about your journey is, especially in me hearing your language, is this innate happiness. To me, it honors your authentic identity. That's what keeps coming out. So let me do 3 slides. Let me do 3 slides. This is just me visualizing it real quick. Um, the easiest thing for me is just a bright smiling baby. Like if you all pay attention to Nadia's picture, her profile picture, just imagine like a baby, put her head on a baby body. And that's what I would do actually there, in representing Nadia. And like it would literally be saying like, hey, I'm Nadia, you all. I was born with a smile that defies the cultural script that was written for me. That's how I would kick it off, right? And then it would shift right next to the next slide, right? And I would title this slide "Cultural Roots" because that's what I hear in this theme. And if I were to visualize it, I would have like traditional patterns fading into the background because I want people to kind of feel what's happening, right? Without trying to tell them all parts of your story. And I would also say, I would literally say at this point in time, um, my roots are rich with tradition because I've heard parts of your journey and every part of you're traveled and things of that nature. But I would also say, if I were you, Nadia, yet I've found that myself fading within the intricate designs of the tapestry of my culture. That's what I would say. And the only other thing because the word stands out to me, I would title the next slide "Pain" or "Pain as Heritage." Whatever, pain has to be there because that came out for me as you were talking. But I also think about a visual. I'm a band geek, so my instrument of choice is the clarinet. I'm thinking about a visual, like a musical note, breaking. I would say breaking away from like a somber melody because you talked about the aspect of like pain being the message in music, and then I would literally say, in my culture, pain sings through music, right? But my soul hums a different tune. Or yeah, that's what I would say. So, I'm sharing this you all because you all just shared your story, and now just imagine how pivotal the twist would be when you add visual, when you add body sensations, when you add common language to it, right? And literally, I just did this from what you shared, Nadia, right? And so we can see the beauty in the Pechakucha and helping people visualize the pain, visualize the fading away from the cultural ties. And we use the word decolonization, but that's literally what I just kind of curated here, right? Moving away from the culture, moving towards an identity that we started with, the smiling, the authentic inner joy of Nadia. And that's the picture we would end with, right? So that's a little bit of here and there. And but I'll jump right into it. In my limited knowledge of technology, they need to redo the app with clean code. Ah, yeah, please share that. Please share that. Let me see, Meg. I'm sorry, I'm missing the chat. I just want to briefly say thank you for those who speak up about preferences and being mindful of certain language being shared. It is extremely helpful and informs me of how to be more mindful and considerate as we all are. Yes, yes. I totally agree. You all are a gift to me. Um, but I promised I was going to share something. So we're going to get into the Pecha Kucha. And I just hope that as we did the icebreaker, you all, you gathered a little bit about your choices, much like the stories we just shared. Everyone was unique, but you heard the themes, you all. Like you heard the light that was shared. You heard where people were heading. You hear Nadia. So, and I would actually, you've all helped me. So I think I started with saying this is about preference, but I want to say this is not just about preference anymore. It's about a deeper narrative that each choice can reveal more about that. Like that's what I would say now. So we did the this or that. We shared some stories, and now I'm just gonna ask you to allow me to share part of my Pachacha that I shared in St. Joseph. It's online. I'll try to find a link and share it in the group with you all as well. But I curated it based on the experience I had today, right? So join me in a moment of breath laughter. So picture this: the smell of fresh leather from new shoes, the kind, KD, you would have when you were a kid. Each pair has a story, much like we do. So today I'm starting, and we are starting with mine. Welcome, Sherilyn. And my first step was in '85. Many people here may know my name is Denard Fenaud. I was born on November 9th of 1985, as you may be very aware of now. My birthday is coming up. I'm a 90s baby. And if this was in person, I wanted to make this presentation enjoyable and have attractive pictures. But then I realized that I wanted to talk about myself, you all. And Nadia, you better not, right? And I know why some people are probably laughing inside right now, because you probably are right. I wasn't always this handsome. Nevertheless, this news may come as a shock to you, Janice, because you've seen my picture on LinkedIn. But the previous picture I shared on LinkedIn on my article is one of a cute, loving child who struggled to find love behind a smile. And behind every smile, there's an echo of a child's laughter or the silence of hidden tears. And you can almost hear them if you listen, Chelsea. There's a cheap cliche: not all glitter is gold, but not all smiles are happy. They're juxtapositions of upside down frowns. So as I began my journey for love, I wanted to share my journey with you all on answering the hard question of who. It's so hard, in fact, that most of us even realize that when we don't actually realize when we pivoted from who into what into why, but that scene, that sense of an old library book is where I started my quest. Amidst the who's and the whys, sometimes finding yourself is like whispering your name in the wind and seeing what echoes back, man. It may be even more complex when we're trying to grasp the who of being as big as complex as God, Janice. Now, I talked about breath laughter. Laughter can be the sweetest melody, and Nadia, as the somber thing we talked about, or it can be the sharpest thing. The question, Carol, is can you hear it? So just for fun, you all, let's make this smaller. Let's make this question smaller. Let me ask you a question. Who are you? Wait, don't answer, KB. Who is the being you call yourself? And how is that different from all the other people in the world who share your name? Ron, I know there's another Ron out there. Brenda, I know there's another Brenda out there. Especially your family. Yep, that's my conclusion I came to as well, Nadia. I came to the conclusion that I have been adopted. And maybe I'm the secret ingredient in my family recipe. So let's talk about this feeling of alienation. See, my sister is fully convicted and convinced beyond a shadow of doubt that I'm adopted. She says my head resembles more than McDonald's most popular chicken McNugget, the boot. And sometimes, listen, don't laugh, Rachel. Don't laugh, Charm. Sometimes the joke is on us until we learn to laugh along. All jokes aside, you all know what? As long as I lived and I learned to live with myself. And I bet the question that we talked about, the complexity of who is God, this one is as big now that you're trying to rediscover yourself. Try it and see. Just for a moment. Welcome, Caitlin. Let's ask the question again. Who are you? I know we have a minute left, so I'm going to continue real quick. And as I began my search through my adoption papers, Nadia, the joke got worse after getting braces. You know, that metallic taste of braces, the reminder of the awkward change or the uncomfortable growth. I was tired of the jokes, and it felt like I couldn't find love in my own family. This made me think that maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm broken, or at least that's what therapy started making me feel. I'm going to invite you all into a random conversation that's been replaying in my head for a long time. It's a conversation that sparked a question whose answer I honestly have yet to fully uncover. And you know, the right words at the right time sometimes are the keys to lock doors and unlock other doors. So I want to chat with you all with a love debate. And I'll give you the first question, simple one. But I bet it won't help. Let's put it in the chat real quick as we're about to close out, you all. Are you team Android, Apple, or BlackBerry? Are you team Android, Apple, or BlackBerry? Let's paste it in the chat. And as you all are doing it, I'm going to say, for me, I was a BlackBerry guy and still am to this day, right? And I remember the sound of the BlackBerry, the sound of the bygone era. It's the sound of outdated ideas. And it reminded me of my ideas of love, outdated. But I'll give you the question that just kept replaying in my head. We said it earlier. It wasn't just who are you, it's who am I? And I want you all to think about it. Are we the choices we make, or do we make choices based on who we are? And repeat that one more time. Are we the choices we make, or do we make choices based on who we are? You got it? You got it? Okay. All right. So here's the conversation between me and someone on Facebook whose name I've seemed to have forgotten, but let's call her Love. And remember, love isn't just a word, it's the lifeline that we all reach for. So Love told me people who believe in love are BlackBerry users. They have to be foolish. They're like hopeless romantics. And I said, wait, sweetheart. Hold on. Do you feel your heartbeat? Is it steady and true? That's the rhythm of life. That's the music that saved me. And I said, no. She started to look kind of odd. And I said, no, I'm telling you, love is real. I know because love saved my life. I could tell you that suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst young adults. But let me tell you something. Linda, listen, Linda. Let me tell you my story. The cool darkness before the dawn, the warm light of sunrise, the moment when love broke through in the quietness of solitude in my room, beyond the shut blinds, the quiet before the storm, there was a promise that the sun will rise. So slowly but surely, you all, I began to see my life as a song, Nadia. And as it unfolded, my journey changed because the world around me changed, you all. The smell of the rain on the hot pavement, and I was in Tallahassee during this time. The world washed anew, the moment of renewal, finally on June 17, 2018. That's when I realized that my first would not be my last, but my last would be my first. What's first may not be last, but sometimes the last brings a first. I want you all to understand that again. I recall rubbing my wife Olda's belly and singing Just the Two of Us by Will Smith. And honestly, I wanted for my son what I didn't have. I was never brave enough to say it to myself. You are living proof that dreams come true. I love you and I'm here for you. And the most outstanding achievement happened on June 16, 2020. As Holda, my wife, and I welcomed our firstborn, Denard Fenaud, our first son. Yes. Many people say that love at first sight doesn't exist. And I can tell you that I believe it does because I've experienced it staring into Canaan's eyes, and I have proof. The question before his birth, during and after was, who does he look like, everyone? And man, people were like, he looks just like Olda. But God answered my prayer because he has my feet. And that's all I prayed for. Sometimes that's tough. But love finds an unexpected way to hug us back, especially when we learn to accept even the small insecurities. I love my white feet, my unpedicured feet. Unlearning is a long and complex process, but becoming is so worth it. And it seems odd to talk about love and loving yourself and being a family, yet the two are inextricably linked, which is why I place family first now. Since we are now a family and you all know everything about Denard as a group facilitator, I guess it's time to let the cat out the bag because some secrets are too good to keep for yourself. I'm happy to announce to you all, we are also experiencing our third first. As of November 5th, 2023, my wife, Uda, told me that we are expecting. So, no, I will not answer who I think the baby would look like, but I will tell you they will have my feet. Right. And we've named the baby Eden, and we're expecting Eden in June or July, actually. But I want you all to know as we're wrapping up here, I'm no longer concerned about the opinions of others and even my own negative self-talk, you all. I'm a survivor and I will not give up. That's what I put on my Facebook today. 3 words, never give up, because love did not give up on me. The last 5 years of my life have been taking me on such a journey, and I've come to realize that finding love is less of a destination than a never-ending exploration into your own mind and experience. So let me introduce you or reintroduce you to me. My name is Denard Fenaud. As of November 9th, I will be 38 years of age, Black African American of Haitian descent from Fort Pierce, Florida, and I'm still on the journey of discovering myself. My most outstanding life achievement happened on June 16, 2020. As older, my wife and I welcomed our firstborn, Kanan Desmond Fenaud. May 20th, 2020, we welcomed Legacy, Zion Legacy Fenaud, and now today, November 5th, 2023, I found out we are expecting our third first, whom we will call Eden Fenaud. So I believe that storytelling is a powerful tool for connecting with others and inspiring change. But I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to share my story with you all today. So how do I feel? I feel like there's life in me still. So I want you all to reflect on your journey and just say to you all, as I go back to the chat, I will ask you to answer a couple of questions on your day and your week today. What is your definition of love? Nadia, what is your definition of family? And what is your purpose in life? And once you have those questions answered, I want you to go beyond that space. And what is your vision for the world? And what is your call to action for the world? Because you do have purpose. All right, I'm going to stop here, you all. I know we're over time, but I do see a hand. And thank you, you all, for listening to my story. Kelly, you going for a great reason. KD Blackberry. And Rachel, I see your hand. What would you like to share as we wrap up here?
I just want to say congratulations, and I am...
Uh-oh. I can't hear you, Rachel.
Can you hear me?
Oh, my headphones were gone this whole time. Oh. Hold on, Rachel. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Okay.
No apologies necessary. I just wanted to say congratulations, and I am praying for an uneventful, uncomplicated pregnancy and healthy mama and baby.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So know this, Rachel, you all have heard, you're the first people outside of my wife and I that I've shared this with. So consider yourself family. I have not even shared this with my family yet. So I'm waiting to share it in person with them, but you all know this. I haven't shared the name with anyone. You all know the name. So you've given me a gift, and with Olda's permission, I wanted to give you all, return a gift to you all, and hopefully you all see it as one, and know that you're family to me. Okay. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for being here. And remember that as you join this space, you do have a story to tell. Whenever you tell it, however you tell it, and where you tell it, it's up to you. But I'm creating a space for you to have safety to know that your story matters. Thank you all for being here. And next week, you will hear from my purpose mate, the best part of me, Denard Fenaud, as she shares her journey. And I'm telling you all, you're in for a treat. She has the gift of simplicity of speech. And I believe she has also the gift of especially when it comes down to postpartum care, she has the gift and ministry for that as well. So please join me as I get to share with you all why I'm actually here on the Circles app. It was because of my purpose mate, Oda. And I just hope that you all can enjoy more of my family with me. And thank you for staying 9 minutes over. And thank you to Circles for giving us this space. Bye, you all. Bye, Rachel. Bye, Nadia. Bye, Carol. And I said the name wrong. I said, oh, no, Sherilyn. Yes. And bye, Meg. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you.